Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's 3 Prakim Rambam, Hilchos, Mechira, Prakim, Chaf Hey, Chavav, and Chav Zayin. And as we will see, God willing, that they all share a common theme. We are starting with Perek 25, Chamisha Ve'esrim. We're going to learn about what is included, what items are included when you purchase a home, what items are not included. Same will be what is included when there is a purchase of a chatzer, of a courtyard, when there's a purchase of an olive press, when there's a purchase of a bathhouse. And truth be told, as the Rambam is going to reiterate a few times, that if you're living in a place where the word house, or the word yard, or the word olive press, merchatz, means this and not that, you follow what it means locally. On the other hand, there are many circumstances in which these things are not defined, and we need to have Torah to give us a more objective definition. Perek Chamisha Ve'esrim has 9 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. It says that Hamoicher Davar, when something is sold, and it's important to note that the Rambam is focusing on the seller. When you sell something, sheyesh loy tashmishin, that it has, let's use the word accessories, or there are other parts to it that come along. The din is loy macheres tashmishav. Those added accessories are not automatically included, unless you specify. Obviously, when you specify this and that, well, that is included. For example, when a person sells a house, the person did not include in the sale the yotzia, some sort of side chamber, some sort of patio that is adjacent and extending the house, which is around the house, that's not included. Even if the area of this patio, even if this area of this side chamber is opened up to the house. However, that it's not automatically included, only in other words, 4 amas makes it into a chashiv area. People give it its own name. It's not included in the bites. But if it has less space, another rule, when a person sells a bias, if you have an aliyah, a second story whose entrance is not from the outside of the house. We're speaking about an aliyah, you can even call it an attic. That in the ceiling, there is an opening through which you go up and down. There is a sky window in the ceiling. That is included in the bias. Again, very unlike what you call today a second story, where you have a separate entrance. That's completely different. Halacha base. When you sell a house. So let's go. All right, we're speaking about rooms that are somehow located behind the house. And the chiddush will be, you have to also appreciate how the houses were. Today, what are you talking about? Today, every house, you have 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 5 bedroom, 50 bedroom. No, the house was like 1 bedroom. The way our Zaydis had it in Samarkand. You understand there was a bedroom? There was some sort of add-on rooms. They were not included in the word bias. Now, even if you wrote in the contract, you wrote in the contract the outermost boundaries of the house, that doesn't mean that everything in that drawing is included in the sale. You simply wanted to clarify which house you're selling. What's the location of the house? Also, what's not included? Not the gag, not the roof. If there has a guardrail. In other words, it makes it into even a more chashiv a place by itself. And it has a roichav of 4 amas. Right, you have a water receptacle that's hollowed out in the ground. Sometimes you have these cisterns that are built, right, projecting above the ground, not included. Even though you said that you're selling the oimek and the room, right, the depth and the height, and this is mamash what we just learned yesterday. We learned this in Perek Chav Daled. Now, we also learned in Perek Chav Daled that if the seller uses the words mekarka hatohoim adroim harakia, then yes, then all of these structures within the ground or above are included, but otherwise they're not. Halacha Gimel. This is very important. The Rambam begins this chapter by pointing out that not everything is automatically included in the word bias. Okay, so let's use the last example of halacha base. So let's say there's some sort of well that's in the ground. It's amazing. In other words, it's in the ground, not outside the house. Push it in the house. That void was not included in the sale. Okay, now how does the moicher get there? So the Rambam says that even though the moicher retained this separate structure, the moicher did not by default keep for himself the right or way of getting there. He did not do that, which means the moicher now will have to make an agreement with the purchaser, a rental, a standard fee, hours. How will he go and get his water? Why do we say that? Because there is a klal, shekol ha-moicher, when you sell, ba'ayin yafa moicher, you sell generously. That's how Chazal estimated. You're getting money, you're agreeing to the sale. So if there's something that's like questionable, the presumption is you sold that. However, but if the seller said words that are superfluous, I'm selling you the house, but not chutz min haboir, chutz min hadus. In other words, these are words that are completely extra, because even if you would not have said it, anyways, you would have retained for yourself. So why are you adding it? People don't say words in vain. They added extra words to mean that they are retaining more than dash the boy. They are retaining the rights to getting there. That's a big cloud. When you add the words that are not needed, they are needed. You meant to include something that otherwise would not have been included. And the opposite. You're only selling the body, only selling the doors based on the cloud. That what? That call hamoicher ba'ayin yafa moicher. So here the opposite. When you're selling the bird, by default, you sold the right of way. You cannot go anywhere in the house, but the way to get to the bird is already in the right of the lekech to enter whenever he wants, and dumamali, then he can fill up the water, all because of the rule that called hamoicher ba'ayin yafa moicher. Halacha dal. Shnei batam zelef nemizah. Again, a bias. The houses were rooms. So if you have two rooms, one within the other, if you sold one room to one and one room to the other, or if you gave a gift to two different recipients, here, when you're selling to two, you understand? If it's you and the new guy, you're selling generously. But if you're selling to both, well, you're selling to both generously. You understand? And by the way, when you give a gift, the klal that call hamoicher ba'ayin yafa is said, in English, on steroids when you give a gift. The whole gift is generous. You're giving it even more generous. In other words, the guy sold. How can the inner guy get in there? I get it. But if you're going to say that he sold to the inner guy, ba'ayin yafa, he also sold the outer room, ba'ayin yafa. They have to come to their own understanding now. The Ein Sarach Loimar, that if he gave the outer and he sold the inner, and again, I'm saying you don't have to say, because when you give a gift, you give it more generously. So the outer person is receiving a much more generous gift if he also has all of the rights, if no one has the rights to go there. However, if he sold the outer, now you sell ba'ayin yafa, but relative to a gift, not as much as. Then we say by default, yesh liderach, shekol hanoisen ba'ayin yafa noisen yosem and amoich. He's a big klala. And for this, you need taka chazal to estimate how people feel, how people think. Halacha 5. Hamoicher asabayis. More items. Notice the Rambam began the items that are excluded. Now we're going to learn about things that are included. Hamoicher asabayis. Machar asatanur. Automatically, if there's an oven in the house, is included. The sakinaim or a range. The esmalbanois hapsachim. Hamuchubarim betit. All of the door frames, as long as they are affixed with mortar. The esadelas, you included the doors. Achanes. But guys, you see, people laugh at it. They say, who even needs that? Well, who even needs that here in the United States? It's a different world. Again, and by the way, if you have places where the door is not included, then the door is not included. But if it's no, that's the rule. If there's no clear understanding. The esaneged, neged is a beam. There were certain beams that were used to bolt the door. That is included. The manol is the lock. What is not included is the key. Furthermore, a mill that's attached is included. It's part of the bias, but not a mill that's movable. So it's teroivel. It's teroivel is some sort of wooden base upon which the mill is based. Yakir, that is included. But a container into which the flour descends, it's a metaltalin. It's not included in the bias. And we're speaking about the Rambam is saying it's some sort of wooden basket. You did not include the blocks that are put under the feet of the bed. You did not include the malbanois, hachaloin is the window frames. Window frames are so not included, even if they are mechobarim betit. Why? Because these items are put for beauty. I can say for sure in American culture, the whole thing is beauty. The whole thing is just about beauty. It's all very external. But there it was not that way. It was about functionality. So things that you added on for beauty are not automatically included. Can you imagine today a Persian buying a house and the seller taking away the pillars outside the house? Because it's only for beauty. According to this, it's not included.
And what if you take the window out, the damage cost to the house? What happens there?
No, the guy understands that automatically. In other words, when you sell a house, then it was amazing. The seller began to take the house apart and keep half of it. You understand? No, this he didn't sell. That's but when he tells him, even if he specifies, there's nothing to talk about. But if he says who v'chol ma'ashavatoichai, now why is he saying the words v'chol ma'ashavatoichai? He's coming to include. Now let's move on from house to chutz. He's selling a courtyard. Machar, you sold. Not like by the house where you didn't sell the boy. Here you did include the boiros, the water reservoirs, the shichin, the walls, the ma'arais, the cellars, the cage, shabbatay. Not only that, all of the houses that are ahachitzoinim b'hapnimiyim. Now this is important. I want you to know like this: both chitzoinim and pnimiyim means houses that open up to the chutzner. But one second, what's the chitzoinim? Chitzoinim means that the outer part of the house opens up to the chutzner. That house can have 2 bedrooms, you will call it. We're calling it 2 houses. The pnimim, so the pnimi opens up to the chitzon opens up to the chutzner. So they all open up to the chutzner. Ubatim sheyesh behem hachoil. Even though
they're showing the same backyard.
Yes. Ubatim sheyesh behem hachoil, meaning buildings with sand. Maybe it means buildings that don't have proper floors. I think it means that if they have proper floors, then it's a separate house. Like there has to be a point where it's considered a separate house. But these are like accessories to the courtyard. The stores that open up into it. Any side structure that does not open up to inside of it, furthermore, what happens if you have an outer room and it's open, lekan ulekan? So how do you assess it? So the din is im roif tashmishan letoicha. No, it's roif tashmishan means, let's speak about a store, yakir. Who is it servicing? Like who are the clients? If the majority of the people that go to the store are people that live in this chutzner, that's roif tashmishan, then it's included in the chutzner. Okay, now what is not included? A good klal. Any movable property, a movable property is not part of the chutzner. But again, it was mancho amar hi v'chol ma'ashavatoicha kol machor. Benkach means even if he said the chutzner v'chol ma'ashavatoicha, if you have a merchatz is something so chashuv that people never include merchatz in a chutzner. A merchatz has its own name. A Beis Chabad has its own name. Beis Chabad. Separate, chashuv. Like halacha zayin. Hamerchat is Beis Chabad. So let's go. We gave in a good picture will be helpful. So what is included? The large stone, which is built on the ground, upon which the olives are ground. That's part of it. The eshakiloim sois shall eres. There's certain cedar beams that are used for support while you're grinding. They are included. The eshayikovim. Yikovim is storage reservoirs. Storage containers, which is quite amazing. Behein hamafrichos. They are called the mafrichos. You would have argued these are already movables. No, but they are mamish there to store the oil. It's considered part of it. The upper millstone is like a standalone item. However, means even if he said the words the blocks that they would use to press the olives, right, is not included. Not the galgal, some sort of wheel, some sort of apparatus, not included. Not the beam itself. The galgal is, that's the picture of the galgal that Kedron is showing. The loya sasak and not sacks. And then you had these leather sacks. A leather sack is called a matsefen. They are not included, even if you said the words, right? Now, oh my loy, however, Allah ches based abad v'chol tashmishav ani moichalach. You understand? Not who v'chol mashu b'toiche. Chol tashmishav. That's more inclusive because all of these items that we mentioned are there in the service of. They are mamash accessories. If outside the olive press you have these areas and these stores upon which these items were spread out, if when the person in the document gave the outer boundaries, even though we learned in this chapter in the beginning that the outer boundaries doesn't necessarily mean that everything in there is included. Sometimes you make the boundaries because maybe you have many properties. You want to clarify what location we're talking about. Here, it's not so. And not the these chanuyos themselves. Final halacha in this chapter, halacha test. The final topic of this chapter. Note, all of them is about real estate. All of the items in this chapter was about different types of bayis, chatzir, right? So the din is what is included. Is based on the sarim. If you want to call them benches or planks that people sit in the innermost room, that is included. As base, how you come in. This is where the water is kept. The containers, right, or the storage house in which you contain the water, that's included. Included are the base hasap solin, the area where you keep the benches where people sit in the outer chatzid. Included is the base havalois, the towel room. Towels are left there to dry out. In other words, all of these button mean these are all chambers. Abayis means a room. All of these rooms are included in the merchatz, and not you only bought the back room itself, but the rooms are included. But the benches themselves, David, and not the water containers themselves, and not the hasaf sol and atzman, and not the towels, they're not included. But means even if you added the words the pools that provide for the bathhouse, baby, you might say like shaman, they're not included. It's too chashuv. So chashuv, that's already a separate thing. Veloy is base kilo sa'etzim. The shed, the lumber shed is not included. Now, even more, even though they are completely outside the bathhouse itself, meaning they're not even psuchim lotoichai, but they are the tashmishav that is needed for a bathhouse. And we're moving on to today's second chapter, Perek Shisha V'Esen. We're continuing with the same cloud. All three chapters have the same theme. Now, we're still going to speak about real estate, but we're going to go to selling a city. Now we're going into wealthier people. When you learn Torah, one of the side effects is you become very wealthy. So people think, you're going to buy another house. Forget about buying a house. Got to buy a whole city. People mamish own cities. They sold cities. They sold lands, sodois fields. Same concept. What's not included?
Okay. Question. And the last one. Is there halachas for selling intellectual property? Like a business name, things like that?
If I'm not mistaken, Rabbi Talber spoke here that in principle, no. But you have to remember, because it might be a davar she'ein by mamash. I think that was included what we learned yesterday. Shir we learned in Matzah Shabbos. I think it's considered something that's not mamash's thing, but there is still a concept. There is a way. There's normally ways of, but you have to know how to write a halachic issue. It's a good topic. Okay, coming back over here, guys. This chapter has 8 halachas. Again, it's very similar to the previous chapter. Halacha. It's amazing. In other words, there's one guy that owns the city. So what's included? All of the houses, all of the bayrois, all of the shichin, all of the ma'arais, all of the merchatzois. Even though these are chashuva things, they are part of a city. You cannot have a city without a merchatz. You understand? All of the shevachos, the dovcoats, the beis habadim, the olive presses, the beis hashalachim, the fields, Shabbat, amazing. V'hasamuchala, ve'es hacharashim, and the forests that are muksala. These are, we're speaking about the forest, woods in England. You have the whole place. Wherever you walk, it's in the city. You have these little, because people need it. Just like you need to have land, you need to have wood, you need to have lumber. It was an accessory to a city. In other words, certain fields are known to be part of the city. People associate them with the city. And all of the pens in which you have chaya and oifos and dogim, that face the town, even though they're distant. In other words, the charashim, I think they push it have to be muksa. Muksa means adjacent. These can be further away, but the openings are towards the city. Avo, let's go. Obviously, we're speaking about a case where the seller owns everything. As we had in the previous chapter. So then, kula mechuda, meaning he b'chol masha b'toicha includes metal. However, even when you're right, or when you say these words, benkach o benkach loy machad es shi'oreha. Shi'oreha means the fields are included. But if you have from the fields that are associated to the city, you have side fields, shirayim fields. This is the best that I can word it. Even though you said he b'chol masha b'toicha, but these are not lechatchila connected to the city. V'lo yes ben loiseh, v'lo yes hacharoshin, nor did you ever include the woods or little forests, which are muksin mimena. You understand? Not muksin before letoicha. They are separated from it. Certain cities also own somehow, they have the rights to a certain part of the sea that they go into. Even though you owned it, that's already considered something so chashuv it's separate. Or the opposite. If it's a city like Venice, Mistama, and right near it there is a Yabasha part of the city. If the city is a sea city, you never included a land city. If they don't face the town, even though you said so what? It's not. But it's the point is these things are not betoicha. That only includes the metaltalin, but it doesn't add more land. Halachavitz. Okay. If you're not,
they always remain like a common area.
No, that means obviously everything belongs to the moicha, so it stays in the possession of the moicha. Now, and by the way, when you own a city, some of that is common area. These are for billionaires. Now we're going, not a billionaire, a multimillionaire. You own land, fields. So like this, you have stones that are set up to be in support of the fence. So the fence is included as avada. Those stones, since they are in support of, they are also included. When people have sheaves that they lay out to dry, you don't want strong winds to blow them away. So you have these heavy stones. That's part of the sudden. You also included automatically the kanim, hachalakim. These are planed reeds that are put under the vines. They are also considered litzar koi if the sada is a kedem. And here's the vart. Even though they are already fully mature, now here not everything travels on the same track. Then again, other dinim at times something that's ready to be mature is considered ready to be harvested. Here we don't say that. You sold the field, anything that's connected. Furthermore, if you have a place where reeds grow, as long as that place is not too big, which gives it a name for itself, meaning what's not so big, it's smaller, mi beis roiva. Even though the kanim themselves are very chashuv, since the space that you designated to plant reeds, it's not sudden, it's considered batal, kafel to the sud. The hut for the watchman that's made out of mortar is considered part of the sada. Because don't forget, guys, the more metaltalin, like we keep on learning in this chapter, last chapter, the less included. Doesn't matter. Why does it not matter? Because since it's built together with mortar, it's like a heavy movable building. No one moves it. It's not flimsy. It's considered part of the. It's considered connected, and it's for the tzorech of the sada. And you also included the carob tree. She'eino murkav. Nothing was grafted on it. We went through the Shabbos. I can tell you like this. I know that sycamore comes from shikama. It means a wild fig tree. Can I tell you? Shikama means a wild fig tree, and you have a psulas hashikma means it was never harvested, it was never pruned. Even though they're thick, it's still considered underdeveloped. Before you do the first trimming, the first pruning, so it's considered a field. Which is even less chashuv, like a shikma. So therefore, it's automatically included in the sada, even though you never specified it. There are other stones on that sada, but they're not seduris legader. They're not already set up to be in support of. Now, the guy had it there not stam to dirty his field. He had it there because sometimes he might need it, but he didn't yet set it up. So it's not considered. It wasn't part of the sada when he made the sale. Stones that are not on sheaves. Even though, again, they were prepared for that purpose. I think it goes on both. If in the kedem there's an area in which you don't have the normal kedem, you have kanem. But it reads, so they're there that later, if you want to add more vines, you already have, let's say, the trellises. It's not part of the sada. It's trellis. It's not automatically included. Even though that everything you needed to do to make them smooth, you have more areas upon which to plant vines. They are not sada. If it's if it's not connected, even though it needs the sada. So sometimes you need to dry out produce. I don't know where you're storing it. So it's amazing. If it's connected to the ground, even though it does not need it, yes, included. If it's disconnected, even though it needs to be there, it's not included. However, then everything we mentioned above, that's not, will be included. Now, it's mamash a pattern. It's all the same. I'm going back. So if you have reeds, right, and it's pashut, there is a place in which normally you use to plant a roiva hakav. If that is filled up with these reeds, it's like a field for itself, and it doesn't matter if the reeds are flimsy. Nor is included, even though you use the words aruga ketana. If you have these small patches in which you plant psamim, spices, because it has a name for itself. If people actually identified with its own name, conditional, like they call it the flower patch of so and so. So the fact that people call it beivered, not sadeh, that gives it its chashivos. Nor a hut that's not even made out of tit, even though you fixed it in the ground. These huts, even now, if it's so light and it's not a fix, and you can dismantle it so quickly, even though you connect it into the ground, it's mamash considered metaltal.
This is menkach is a continuation.
Even though you use the words v'chol ma'asher, this won't be included.
Is a continuation of the last level?
Yeah, always. Yeah, yes.
So these are never included?
Yes.
Even if he says everything's included?
Only kol tashmisha. We're going to have it later. Kol ma'asher b'toicha is a lesser statement than kol tashmisha. We keep on having this. Kol ma'asher b'toicha still does not include it. V'lo imachar hacharuv, that's murkav. A charuv that's already grafted is too chashuv. Can never be included. It's like a thing for itself. V'lo saden shel shikma. Saden means not a psula. A sycamore, a wild fig, it was already harvested once. When you harvest it once, when you prune it once, it becomes proper. Once it becomes proper, it has a shem b'fnei yatzmi. Even if it's still little. Halacha daled, and as we learned in the previous chapter, this is very important, that whenever the moicher sells real estate, and the Moicher Taka retained for himself certain parts of it. Now the new question is, how does he get it? Don't say, well, if he retained that place for himself, of course he retained the derech to get there. We don't say that. We only say it was not included in the sale. But kol ha-moicher, ba'ayin yafa moicher. So now you want to get there, you seller, to go there. To go to the bird, to go to the gas, to go to the shoivach, that remained, that is still his in that sadem. However, also like we learned in the previous chapter, if the moicher said words that are really superfluous, if he says, I'm selling you the sadem, but I'm not selling you the bird, even though you wouldn't have said it, you would not sell the bird. So why are you saying those words? Not to repeat the obvious. You meant, in other words, I am keeping my rights to get to the bird. That's what you meant. That what? This goes on everything we learned, David, in last chapter and this chapter, everything. In other words, that when you sell a bias, what did we learn? We learned Sada, bias, Chotzer, Beis Habad, Merchatz, right? Ear, that things are excluded. That's all. When you're making a sale, there is a certain responsibility on the purchaser to clarify while they're doing the kinyan, and he didn't. So therefore, we also learned in the previous chapter that kol hanoisen ba'ayin yafa noisen is more than selling. So you're in the mode of giving. When you're in the mode of giving, always that way. Everyone says business is business. The most generous people, they're very giving. But when they're doing it, selling, they're not that generous. They're still relative ba'ayin yafa. But when you're giving a gift, you're in the mode of just giving. You give much more. Kanas kulan. All of these items that we spoke about is bein basada, bein babayis, bein bachatzer, bein beis habad. Klolei shadavar hanoisen karka, kana hamakabel, kol hamachuberla, ad sheyefarish, that you're not including it in the gift. You know, there's a few talks of the Rebbe how we find by the Torah 3 different expressions. It's called a lekach toiv, purchase. It's called a gift, and it's called a Yerusha. So just to appreciate these 2 parts of it, like how much did God give when He gave? Huh? Yeah, it's a matana. Matan Torah. And there's 3 different parts of the Torah. Yesh bozeh, Rasha ein bozeh. But now you appreciate this more. In other words, when we're tapping into the gift part of the Torah, we're getting a lot more. That's the irony. On one hand, you have to work hard. A purchase means lo yagata motzasa al tamen. You're not going to know if you're not going to learn. That learning is like you're buying it. You're making an effort. But what you get is commensurate to what you put in. You're not getting plus. But then you're zoicha and you become a makabel. Kabbalah satreda, you get even more. Halacha vot. Cheno acham shecholku. Oh, so how do you view that? So first of all, so then Zacha b'kulan. In the point that Rambam is trying to make, when you look at a division of an inheritance, there's 2 ways of looking at it. One way is everyone owns a little piece in everything. And then when I'm saying you're getting that and I'm getting this, it's either we are selling. We don't look at it that way. We look at it like we're gifting it to each other. Point is that kol hanoisen ba'ayin yafa max. So whatever part you got, you get all of it. All of these things you get. Another rule, hamachzik benichsei haget. We're speaking about the only scenario where if someone who converted and later did not have kids, when he passes away, there's taken no heirs. Anyone who makes a kinyan in it will be zoichet like from the hefker. Hechzik basada zacha b'kulan. Because there is no owner that's retaining anything. Furthermore, hamagdish as hasadem, higdish as kulan, because kol hamagdish, ba'ayin yafa magdish, maybe even more than a gift. Halacha zayin. Af b'moicha v'lekeyach, ein kol elo hadvarim mechayoytze behen, mi inyonom amurim el b'makim she'ein shav minik, like we spoke of in the previous chapter. There isn't a set minik. Like we said, what is included in the house, if the yotzia is very little, it's included. Yeah. What happens if you live in a place where no one ever calls the yotzia bias? Everyone only calls that Yotzia. It will never be included. No, something having its own name makes it distinct. And it's not going against the Torah. It's about Gemiras Das. And if something was not clear, we have to estimate what was the Gemiras Das. The default is the Minik HaMokim was your Gemiras Das. If there is no Minik HaMokim, for that we need to have the Torah. In this area, whenever you use the word bias, the opposite. It's labayis. Can you imagine today? You're saying you're selling a building and you're not selling the airspace. Maybe if you have to know how people understand it. If you are living in a place, I think automatically you buy the land underneath it. I think maybe the opposite. Maybe here, if you want to retain it, you have to write that clause. I don't know the minig of.
No, New York is the only one. New York, you have to buy the airspace. LA,
to
not
buy
yet.
Okay, not yet. That's a good line. So then, holchin achaloshin anshi amakim, and the adin b'chlal b'moichin chatzir or sada or ir or metaltalin. Again, stam lahoid the seder in the Rambam, right? I get it. Chatzir was in the last chapter, but in this chapter, the Rambam wrote ir before sada. That the rule is bakoil holchin achar Hashem oisaruches b'fiyakoil. And final halach of this chapter, halach neches. Not only here, but in all business transactions that it's very important. You have to appreciate. There's two different things. There's the lashon, you have to know what the word means. But then there's something else. There are times that this word does not mean. But the minig is that when you use this word in the context of a sale or in the context of a gift, and the word doesn't mean it, it's included. Two different dinim. And both of them are valid because that was the Gemiras Das. Avol mokim she'emoy minig yadua. Nor are there shemois miyuchadim. What does it mean? Yesh koydem kach. Yesh koydem kach. Is there a point that you follow the main majority? Could be. But here there's no majority. Then that's why we have these chapters. And we're moving on to today's third chapter, which is Vaitin. Same idea. We had two chapters about real estate. Now we're moving on, my friends, to Metaltalin. So we're going to learn about a ship. We're going to learn about saddles. We're going to learn about Avadim and Balachayim. And the Rambam, again, is going to write in this chapter about the importance, after learning the objective Torah understanding of words, that to go after, like we had on the end of the previous chapter, both Lashon B'nai Yadayim, and that place, English guys, there's English from America and there's English from England. I'm not talking about the accent. I'm not even talking about the vocabulary. I'm talking about the meaning. It's the Lashon of that place, and also, even if it's not the Lashon, the minig. Halacha out. This chapter has 11 halachas. It says that we're going to the wealthier people again. I think a boat is a lot more expensive than a carriage. Beginning with the big Gevirim. So what's included? Mochar es hatoiron. The mast is included. The nace, the sail, which you put on them. That's agoinim shalom. The anchors. That's called hamoishtin, hamanhigemoisim. All of the ropes or the oars. Everything that's used to lead it. The esakevesh and the ram. For ha'askola. That's a ladder. They go up and they go down. And the esbeis hamayim shebetoicha. Every svina was speaking about the big ships was like two little sailboats, however big it was then. And you have to have drinking water included. Avo loy mochadas habitzis. Was is those bitzis that Rambam explains? That's
tender.
Huh?
It's called a tender.
Okay. As a svina haktana. Many ships have to have many ports. The water is too low. If the ship goes very deep into the water, you cannot go all the way. You cannot dock. So they would anchor half a mile out, and then would have the bitzes that would bring everyone in. That's already chashuv. It's separate. Also, you did not sell. Huh?
It's like a dinghy.
It's a dinghy. But there was two. There was one that was used to bring people to shore, and there was one that they used to go fishing while they were in the boat. That's called the dugis from dag. Not included is the dugis. Why can't you fish it from the big ship? I have no idea how fishing works. Maybe the big ship is scaring away those fish a lot. Maybe the other guy is going to chop your fish. I don't know. So they had these little, they would go out and then they would go back to the big ship. Look how people would look at avodim. They're not included. Chiddush. And we just had this word 2 chapters. It's leather sacks. However, right, this is very consistent. When you add the words everything mentioned now, including the bitzis, including the dugis, they will be included. Halacha Beis, moving on from a ship to a carriage. I want you to know there's different lashonis in Chazal. You have a koron, you have an argola. They're different. I think the koron is bigger, but we're going to call it now a koron. You're selling a carriage. So the mules that are not attached are not included. However, in the opposite, also if you sell mules, tzemed is this big yoke, not a single oak. It's an oak that went on many oxen. And now the chiddush is va'afilu b'makim shekoiden miksasan latzemed bakar. Nevertheless, the miksasan here doesn't count. Now, that means that in the other areas, I don't even think you need to have a roid. I think this is the unique thing over here, that they're considered so different one from the other that miksasan won't do it at all. Halacha Gimel. Oil is what you place on one ox, on one animal. If you sell the oil, yes. Wow. Oil. It's amazing. It's here we're taking 2 items that one is subservient to the other in that direction. So when you get when it's funny, it's not when you sell the bigger one you get the smaller one. Forget the bigger one stands by itself. The smaller one is so bottled to the bigger one that you don't just buy the smaller one. You buy the oil with the pot. Now, an agola I think is smaller. It's also a wagon. Macharas agola. It's then macharas abakar. But macharas abakar le macharas agola. Now,
like when you sell a bike, the lock doesn't go with it.
If you sell the lock, here in America, very good. If you sell the lock, you only sold the lock. But I get the logic. Sometimes when you sell that, no one's going to buy a lock. You're buying the lock because you're buying the bike. Maybe, I'm saying maybes. Maybe a single oil was like custom made fit. If you don't even have that potter, maybe you can't even, I don't know. I don't know how much relationship they have to have. Now, unlike we had in the past 2 chapters, by karka, there's no aina'ah. You also understand the seder of the Rambam. By metaltalon, there's something called aina'ah. So someone can ask a simple question. If you are selling something and you use the word, and there's some sort of doubt what is and what's not included, I have a simple solution. How much money did the guy give? Look at the market value. And if the market value of what you gave should be for more, doesn't that prove that you meant more, the lekeach meant more? Or if the money that the moicher agreed to sell for was less, it makes sense for 1 item. It wouldn't make sense for 2. Shouldn't that be a right that he didn't mean this and that? We don't say that. Even though there's dinay no. If we care about this word, like the Rambam wrote, if there's no lashon, if there's no minig, what that word means. Now, if it happens to be that this word yakir means less items, and the moicher charged too much money, then we'll kick in the laws of Ainah. If it's more than a 6, mekach batal. If it's less, mechila. If it's exactly a 6, then the money has to be corrected. But it doesn't prove, the value doesn't prove. Now, that statement was not needed in the previous 2 chapters because Bachlal, there's no Ainah by Kar. Because land is worth whatever you charge for it, but not so by metalpala. That's Gavaldik. Halacha dal. You sell a donkey, Here it's going. Here, the bigger includes the smaller.
Today I don't understand the language.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know this word.
You're talking about the Lashon HaKodesh or the concept?
Lashon HaKodesh. No, the concept.
Okay, we're good. Oh, Lashon HaKodesh. Okay, fine. If you sell a chamor, you sold them on Mardas is a saddle cloth. And Ukaf is a leather saddle, a normal saddle. They are included in the donkey. Guys, it's the Rambam is writing v'chein, only v'chein that one includes the other, but it's in the opposite direction. Here, David, here it's the bigger, like what we understand. You buy the bigger, you automatically include the small. And these two items, even though they're not on it, they had certain saddle bags. That's not included automatically. It was a special seat that they would have. And that is so not included, even if it was on the donkey while you made the sale. Imagine. And don't forget that we're speaking about the behemoths. You're making Mashiach. So you would think I made Mashiach on everything. No, you bought the donkey, you did not buy the Merkavas Hanoshim. And here again, why the Rambam has to repeat it, I don't know. But here, it's not only the Rambam repeats it, but here the Rambam explains what he means more than before. There's a reason for this. Oh, here's adding a nuance. In other words, it's an acceptable mistake. There's still a no. Yes, no. Means if he overcharged or undercharged the sixth, or if he overcharged more than the sixth, the losing party can bring out the card. But here the Rambam adds, he made a huge error. I don't know how you define that. When you make a huge error, you know what we say? Look how das Torah, das balabatim. If you make a huge error, we say that he was giving you a gift, but he knew that you have pride. He wanted to give you the dignity that you're buying for it. But not even I know. Why didn't the Rambam write this in the Hilchas? I don't know. Because we say I love this Allah. And who has to establish that the basin of the place? Kefira ois eine hadayan. How great is that? And by the way, Matana can go in both ways. You know what we're talking about? Yakir, who's giving who a gift? I got it. The buyer is giving the seller the gift. In other words, these bags, they're not meant to write. They're meant to luggage. They're so not included in chamor, even though let's say a chamor is worth $100. Those bags are worth $100. It's worth a lot of money. The lekeach is giving the guy $200. It's so not shayach. It's not 16%. He's giving $200. The word chamor doesn't mean the sack. Why did he give? It's no, I know. He wanted that guy to feel like he's making a good deal. That's the biggest tzedakah, right? Someone goes ahead if the seller needs parnasa and you really overpay them. Beautiful. That ein mavian by rayim and adamim. No, the Rambam wants to add a nuance. So either there's a no, or we're going to say no. One party was giving a gift, but it doesn't. It make clear doesn't go against these halachas. Halacha vav. Hamacher es hashivcha. Machar kelim shalai. I know keli means keli. Lashon hakodesh. Kelim means garments.
Yeah.
Or not. And even if she's wearing 100 garments, that's part of that. When you bought the shivcha, that was part of what you're buying. It was clear. Whatever she's wearing, you bought. Avol lemachar es hashedim. Her bracelet, which belonged to the previous master. That was not included. Not the nose rings. As you put it on the market, he adorned her. It's not included. Love it. Not the rings, that which kills women, it's called the chokers, even in English, it's a choker. Anything for beauty. You can't breathe, who cares? You look good. But if you say shivcha v'chol mashallah neimar chalach, again, chol mashallah always includes metal. And afal pi sheyesh aleh kelim shalmei amanim, you can say it's so expensive. Again, money. You kidding? She's wearing a $5,000 necklace, and you only paid $1,000 for her. Chol mashallah. In my mashal, there won't even be oino. You're giving the seller a matana with dignity. Halacha zayin. Shidcha meuberes ani moichalach, or para meuberes ani moichalach. So then, what was included in the sale? Clearly, the vlad is included. You said shidcha meuberes, but if you say shidcha menika ani moichalach, shidcha menika doesn't mean that even though she has a child, it doesn't mean you included your child, that child. It means that there is still value. There's value for a shidcha to have milk. So if someone else needs a wet nurse, you can provide that service. Even if they have a vlad, you never spoke about the vlad. By a shidcha and by a para. But a chamoir, no one drinks donkey milk. Yes, you included the siyach, the babele, the little donkey. If you're not going to use it for their own child,
I don't know what's going on with the language.
Asoin, aton, who? Asoin. Halacha ches. I know he's good. Yakir is good. He's just pointing out how there's Ivrit, and there's Lashon HaKodesh. Has nothing to do one with the other.
Even Aton is Lashon HaKodesh. No, we don't have Aton. What was it? Arabic?
Yesh v'yesh.
Maybe
Chas v'shalom. No. Okay, the truth is, there's reasons for it. I would say like this. First, the Yad HaChazak was not written in Arabic. This klal that Rebbe said, it makes so much sense that the Rambam quoted the Lashon of the Mishnah, and the Mishnah was a compilation. So when there's not a consistency in the Mishnah and Lashonis, that Bachal doesn't bother you. This Tana used this word, this Tana used the other word. When the Rambam was quoting everything he didn't write, he's sourcing it. He never wrote where he got it from. He's going to use the Lashon of the author. I'm selling you the head of this Eved. We're speaking about a living Eved. Or the Roish, not Chamor said, the Roish of this Chamor, Machulach. Look how we look at it. Again, when it comes to sales, he meant half. Go figure this out on your own. Never. That's the rule. Notice we don't say you can say either only the head or it means everything. No, not this and not that. It means half. That if they're living, you said that I'm selling you the heart of the Eved, means you're selling him half. But if you say Yad Eved not Ever Shana Shama Yad Chamor Zemacholach. Here, Mishamnin B'neihem. You have to make a evaluation. You have to make it an evaluation. What Yad? How much can you value that which the Eved does with his hands? That's what it means. I don't know how they made that evaluation, and that is what was sold. Nukod. Amaloi Roish Parazu Ani Moichalach. Roish Parazu Leimacher Ela Roish Bovad. Sharei Roish Nimkar Tame B'mit Pachayim. Because when you sell stuff to a butcher, that's the way people spoke. And I want to add a butcher never buys a putter. He picks. Once you're using the words that people who buy the animal for its meat, they use it, then when you don't say, since it's a living being, you're not buying it as a living being.
If your cow is alive and you sold me the head, can I just say, hey, I'm coming to get my head?
No, that's what the Torah is saying, that if you didn't say Zu, Roish Para, then you own half. He meant half. And if
Roish, just the Roish, fine.
No, we don't say that. Only if it's dead. Look at the next halacha. Halacha test. When I was preparing this, I got stuck. I was thinking, I began reading halacha test. What are we talking about? Then I'm just writing halacha ches. If you say Roish Chamor, Chetzyoy. Halacha test is the animal is dead. If the animal is dead, now it's a whole different rule. When you buy meat in a butcher shop, you should know that in many places, when you mention one, included to something else. And then I'm going to say Chiddush, that when you buy the head, Gasa means a cow, a bull, the windpipe, it's not included the covet. But that's only because the animals are big. The bigger the animal, the more chashiv is every part. But when you're buying and selling a behemoth, then that's how it worked. That was the norm. Again, if the minig is different today, it's different. You know, it's the raglaim. I don't even know if it's legal. I remember my mother used to put fisalach in this chicken soup. I don't know.
Yeah.
So in other words, it was not. It was something that maybe is dirty unless you clean it, obviously. So maybe that was the way it was included. If it's
The idea that parts of a dead animal each have value. Okay, fine. That's very easy to understand. You go to a butcher, you buy the roast, you buy this.
correct.
I don't understand when you're buying just the head of a living animal. What did I just get?
You bought it, half of the animal, the value half of the animal.
The cow, you only get the head. So fine,
No. What was that?
So I only got the head.
No, zoo. Yeah. When I lived, Danny, the word zoo is because you're using words that are used when people buy the animal to butcher it.
Okay, so I'm saying right now the cow's alive, but I have the rights to the head. Am I allowed to say, hey, you got to kill it right now because I want my head?
Probably not. There's a value to it. I don't know how you evaluate it.
No,
No, I don't know. No. There's a value to it.
Of a living head? That's what it means. So I have the head while it's alive. I want my head. I just bought my head.
Rabbi, but we learned this.
What did we learn? We learned that only the 4 times a year can you force a butcher to shecht it for you. Only for your part. Normally you can't do that. Yeah. I understand what Danny's saying. Like, what does it mean? I don't know what it means. I don't know it doesn't mean that you can say shecht
part of the group. You have to wait for the group.
In the December quarter, you get half the animal.
And let me add half of the word. I think, but no, let me say it like this, that if until the guy shechts it, I think you still have some rights to the head. I don't know what that means. Okay, weiter. Now, by the the big includes the little does not include the big. Unlike the halachi gimel, when you sell the oil is smaller, you include the part. Macheres hakana, macheres hakavet. Macheres hakavet, macheres hakana. Forget about the words big and small, just the way people spoke. Halacha you. Hamacheres haboyer. You sell a water reservoir, you did not sell the water. Nekuda. Leimacheres meimov. When you sell an ashpa, a garbage dump, you did sell the garbage. Garbage has value. But the garbage is more bottled to the ashpa, and the mayim is less bottled to the word. You sell a beehive, you include the bees. Even though we learned over Shabbos, right, or Sunday, that the bees doesn't mean all the bees. That's because it can be machrevit, but we say it. Final halacha yud aleph says that don't let this fundamental principle escape you. That's what the word yolus means. Escape your eyes. Shahu minag hamedina v'hashemos hayiduyim biyichud l'chol davar v'davar. You have to know what this word means, and this is constantly in flux. It's only ubemakim she'ein minag. There is where we say Holchem Achad Elo HaKlala should be Arno Chachamim, to be continued.